like to use a foot switch when I'm using the router arm or any sort of routing tool, and the reason is that it keeps my hands free. I can have both hands on the work when I turn on the router. It's that way I don't lose control. The thing though is when you're setting up, because you might accidentally catch the switch, make sure that the router switch is off so that it won't go on if you step on it. Okay, let's get this piece of wood back here. We're going to quickly scratch some lines here. And mark our mortise. Okay, now we're going to be feeding the wood past the bit to make the cut. We're also at the same time we're going to be feeding the bit into the wood by lowering the router in increments. You never want to make the cut all at one time. If you read the manual on your router, it will tell you that you shouldn't make a cut deeper than 1/4 of an inch at a time, and that's baloney. You really want to limit that to 1/8 of an inch. And when I'm doing precision work, I limit it to 1/16 of an inch. You want to make this mortise in several passes. On this particular tool, it's cool how you do this. It's got a lever over here that Drew's going to switch to camera number 2 in a little bit so you can see this close up. But let me show you how it works. This lever, of course, just like you think, makes the router go up and down here. But you can, if you want to, lock it at any position by simply twisting the knob. So you loosen by turning counterclockwise, drop it a few fractions of an inch, twist it back to lock it in place. Loosen, lower, lock. Real simple. The other thing is it's fairly simple to set the depth of cut here. I've now put the router bit so that it is right on the wood. Now I'm going to set the depth with this little threaded knob up here. This, as you turn it up or down, you can limit the travel of the router. And I want it to go down 1/2 inch from where it is. So I would loosen the wing nut if I need to, and then I would take a feeler gauge and put it in between the surface of the router arm and the tip of the depth stop. Now, everyone has 1/2 inch feeler gauges in their shop. They're called drill bits. And as a matter of fact, you probably have these in 1/64 inch increments. So take your 1/2 inch drill bit, roll it under the router bit is on the wood, the depth stop. Take the depth stop down to where it just touches. Tighten up the wing nut, and there you be. Okay, at this point that will drop down 1/2 inch and no farther. All right. Now, we're going to feed the wood in this direction. The reason for this is because the bit rotates clockwise. If I feed it against the rotation, the bit comes back behind the direction of feed and scoops out the wood and forces the wood against the fence. If I were to feed it in the other direction, the bit would scoop out again on the back of the cut and throw the wood away from the fence. This is called backrouting. It's something you should avoid at all costs, because the minute you stop applying enough pressure, that board will jump out at you and ruin your cut. So if you need to route the mortise from this point to this point, turn the wood around so that you can route it feeding in the correct direction. Now we're going to once again set the table. Let me put the bit down on the wood. I'll rotate the bit so that both flanges are in line and I can see. Loosen the table lock, the height adjustment, and move the table sideways. Whoop. The other sideways. Done. Check that. Looks pretty good. Let's also check and make sure that the fence is straight. You know, the fences on a router table are split fences. You have two halves, and you have to set both halves. In this case, we want them both lined up. So I'm going to check with the straight edge, and they are. Okay. I've got eye protection. Let me put on some ear protection. Now, this time around, I don't have to mark both ends of the mortise, although some woodworkers do. Some woodworkers like to drill a hole at one end of the mortise and the other end, and then the route in between them. That's perfectly acceptable. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at one end and route to the other end and stop. Then I'm going to go back and I'm going to route it again and again and again until I achieve the depth that I want. Okay, let's see how we did here. Right on the line, ½ inch deep. So now, the only difference between this particular mortise and the one that we made with the mortiser is that this mortise has a round top and bottom. Of course, the mortising bit being a round cutter doesn't cut square corners. So in order to get the square corners, we have to cut those with a chisel. Now, you don't absolutely need square corners. You could round off the tenon. And that's a 2-minute job with a rasp or a file. However, I will show you how to make square corners very simply. We're gonna go over here to take a minute to set up. We're gonna go over to the workbench. go. Okay. I'm going to use a 1/4-inch chisel and a mallet and a block of wood. I'll explain what all of these are for. First thing I do is I put the chisel right on the line that I scribed. Okay, that's the neat thing about scribing lines. The chisel drops right into them. You know when you're there. And then I put the block of wood behind the chisel. That keeps the chisel square to the or going straight up and down. Just tap down, presto, square corners. Do it here also. Here I need a smaller block, but it will work. That was easy. Okay, and that's it. Square mortise made on the router arm. Okay.